Hello and welcome to this free webinar on feeling tired all the time. My name is Martin Stone from Switch On Health, and our presenter for today's session is Deanne Apostolou. Now, I'll let Deanne introduce herself properly in a moment. Now, this session is being recorded to go up on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do help us by clicking on the subscribe button, because the more subscribers we have, the more we can offer, and we look forward to offering more. Now, feeling tired all the time, fatigue, feeling low on energy, Deanne will tell you as well, you know, she's a practitioner. I have been a practitioner as well. It's a very, very common complaint. A lot of people simply feel like they are just exhausted, tired, don't have the kind of energy and the, you know, the vibrancy that they would really like to have. Now, the good news is that there are lots of natural remedies that can help with this, and Deanne is going to run through some of them in this presentation. So this presentation is primarily designed for people that are either complementary medicine practitioners already or studying complementary medicine. But if you're neither of those, if you're just general public, great. Well done for finding this video. There will definitely be things in here that can help you as well. Now, if you're watching this live, we will have time for Q&A at the end if you would like to stick around and ask some questions. If you're watching this on YouTube, just pop any questions you've got into the comments box below and we will get back to you. So enough from me. I will now hand over to Deanne for the main presentation.
Thanks, Martin. Hope everyone's doing really well at whatever time and date that you're watching this. So I'm going to go straight to share screen, and then we can just move on with the presentation. So yes, TAT, feeling tired all the time. And as you can see by the graphic, I mean, that's what we mean by absolute exhaustion. So we're basically going to go through some tips to help you feel more energetic and bring the vibrancy back into your life. So a quick little thing about who am I? Deanne Apostolou, herbalist, iridologist, educator. I graduated many, many years ago, and I've had a lot of experience both teaching and as a practitioner. And I will get straight into the presentation because what, as Martin said, what you find is that I would say 90% of my patients' initial complaint is their lack of energy. When I ask them at the beginning of a consultation, it's like, well, you know, what are your priorities? Basically, what are you here to see me about? And 90% of the time that will say, I'm tired, I've got fatigue, I've got no energy, I've got no motivation. So there's actually quite a lot of things that we can do to actually help people improve their energy levels. So yeah, it comes to this, you know, all these sorts of things. It's whether you're dragging yourself out of bed in the morning, falling asleep on the lounge after dinner, you know, just you're constantly in this battle of trying to catch up, and then the tiredness, you become grumpy, and you know, it then overflows into the rest of your life and the rest of your relationships. So there's obviously lots of reasons for tiredness and for fatigue, and I've listed a few of the things there. These lists that I've put out, they're not exhaustive lists. There's obviously lots of other reasons why people are tired, but these are some of the issues that we can put things down to. So clinical reasons, okay, and then we go into some of the other reasons for fatigue. Poor nutrition is a really big one. Lack of sleep, obviously, is a really big one. Stress creates a lot of fatigue for people. Exercise, and then there's, of course, that boredom and that listlessness or the restlessness where you've got no motivation. You can't be bothered getting up to burn off any energy. But, you know, it's just this catch-22 cycle of you've got really bad sleep, you can't be bothered doing anything, you're not burning up the energy, so you can't sleep well, and on it goes. So then I think it's really important trying to discern when fatigue is a problem. Like, okay, we all feel, oh my God, it's Monday, I don't want to go to work today. Sometimes we can just go, oh, I just want to sleep all weekend and recover. I've had a really busy week at work. Or you're just saying no to social activities. It's when fatigue is constantly interfering with your quality of life. It's more than just, I've had a big week at work, I've had a big weekend, I didn't sleep well last night. It's just when it's this constant thing and it really starts impacting on your quality of life. And one of the first things that you can do, of course, is going to a GP and just saying, look, I'm really tired, can I have a blood test? And that can then rule out if it's low iron or if there's any other things in the blood test that are showing. They'll do a full blood count and test the liver enzymes, the kidney enzymes. They'll look at gallbladder, white blood cells, your iron, your hemoglobin. Sometimes they'll look at thyroid issues as well. So there's a whole lot of things that a GP can look at if you're going to them and you're going, hey, I'm really tired, I've got no energy, I can't do anything. So then the thing is that you can get the blood test back and the GP will be saying, well, there's nothing wrong. Everything looks really good. You're all in range. There's no problem. Isn't that great? Well, maybe not, because then you're still left with that thing in the back of your head going, but I'm still tired. Why am I so tired? And this is where your herbalists and your naturopaths come in, because this is when we can differentiate and try to get to the root cause of the fatigue. But fatigue can be the first sign of many illnesses and many conditions, and we can easily wave it away and just go, oh, yeah, I'm just tired. I'm always tired, you know. And it's easy to just go, yeah, well, that becomes a state of normal, where it really shouldn't be. So I've written some differential questions down that I will often ask all of my patients that I see. And your differential questions are how we gather all the information to determine what the problem is. So yeah, as I've said, it's like the Inquisition. So you're asking loads and loads of questions. You're asking the person, is there a particular moment when your fatigue started, or has it just crept up on you? So like it could be, oh, I've just, you know, last year my mother died, or my father died, or my partner died, or I lost my job and then I've just, you know, haven't had the motivation to get up and get moving. I had a car accident, I had an operation. Just if there's any particular moment that they can pinpoint that they think their fatigue may have started. And then if they can't, okay, it's just crept up on them, then you're continuing with your questioning. And it's a really good thing to ask them, when is your most tired time of day? And the other side of that is when is your best time of day? Like, when do you feel the most energetic? And I've written in there that you can use the Chinese body clock. There's lots of information on Chinese body clock, and I've got that coming up in the next slide that I'll just go over really briefly. But then it's also looking at, does your fatigue follow your menstrual cycle or the phases of the moon, or is your fatigue worse after eating certain kinds of food? And I know, you know, moon phases to some people might be a bit woo-woo or a bit out there, but you ask any of the emergency services and they'll always remark how much busier they are when there's a full moon, especially when there's a full moon on a Friday or Saturday night. And people just tend to go a bit crazy. So let's just have a look at the Chinese body clock. They're just looking at that really briefly. What the idea of this is that certain times of the day are mapped out together with certain organs of the body. And you can see in this, and there's lots of other information out there, like I am by no means an expert on this, but it just gives you a bit of an idea. If someone was to say to you, well, I always wake up between about 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning and I can never get back to sleep again until about 3. Well, that could easily be a sign that the liver is not working as well as it should be. Or a very common thing is, well, I wake up at 5 in the morning and then I go back to sleep again around about 6 and then I can't get up at 7. So that comes into the large intestine. So it just, by looking at the Chinese body clock here, it just gives you an idea what organs might be affected for this particular person. And it's not necessarily for everybody, but then you can marry this in with some of your questioning. And then if you're doing iridology, you can marry this information in with your iridology as well. So one of the first things is sleep hygiene. Of course, we really need to look at the importance of having a refreshing good night's sleep is, because you know if you don't sleep well, you're waking up tired. And unfortunately, there's no sleep bank. Like, it's not like you can sort of say, well, one night I had 8 hours sleep and the next night I only had 4. So I'll be able to catch up with 2 hours from that night that I had 8 hours. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. We really should be getting about 5 to 8 hours good, refreshing sleep a night. And everybody's different. Some people might find that they can survive really well on 5 hours or 6 hours. Other people might say, oh my goodness, no, I really need 8 hours sleep and I have to get my 8 hours, or I'm terrible, I'm no good. So looking at the sleep hygiene and what people are doing before bed is really important. So things like, of course, are they on the phone? Now there's all the yellow lights and blue lights and things like that you can get in glasses or change your phone over, and that can really help stop that stimulation, because the light on your phone is actually known to drop your melatonin levels, and your melatonin is your hormone for helping you to get to sleep. So if you're on your phone until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and this can be particularly for teenagers and adolescents, it can really overstimulate the brain, and then they can't go to sleep. And that's aside from the addictiveness of the phone, but that's a whole other thing. So watching TV, though, some people will say, well, TV's, just as bad, isn't it? But no, it's not. It's a slightly different type of light, and you're much further away from it. So it doesn't affect you as much as what a phone or a laptop will do. So I know most people tend to end up having their phones in their rooms, but if you can not have that, that would be great. If you can definitely not have a laptop and take the laptop into the bedroom, so then the bedroom becomes almost like a work type environment. You want to make sure that your bedroom is just for sleeping, preferably, because no eating either in bed, because that can overstimulate the digestive system if you're eating just before bed. And of course, yes, I've written sex in there as well, because obviously having sex can actually really induce a really good night's sleep for some people. But what people are eating and drinking all day can be an issue as well. Like, are they drinking a lot of coffee until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Or they can have their coffee after dinner at 10 or 11 at night and it's not affecting them. That's actually a big red flag, because if they can still sleep when they've had a cup of coffee, then they've got other issues around their nervous system that need to be addressed. Of course, alcohol intake and high sugar intake of food, high carbohydrates before bed, they actually overstimulate the digestive process, and then that can affect someone's ability to actually sleep really well. So regular bedtime is a really good thing, not just for kids, but for adults as well. So if you can sort of make it that you try to get into bed by 10 or 11 o'clock at night, or even if it's a regular thing and it's midnight and you're sleeping well from 12 till 6 or 7 p.m., that's not so bad. Some people, prefer to go to bed at 10 p.m. and wake up at 5 a.m. And, again, that's great. They're getting some really good restful sleep, hopefully. Oversleeping makes you tired. Sleeping for 12 hours will just make you really lethargic through the rest of the day. So there's a whole lot of things that I've written in there. I'm not going to go through absolutely everything. But I just want to say, though, one of the worst things that you can do is just lie down in bed and go, oh my God, I can't sleep. And you're tossing and turning and going, I can't sleep. This is really annoying. The best thing to do is to get up, go for a little walk around the house, maybe read a book, go to another room, read a few pages of a book or something, and then try and go back and get yourself to sleep. And of course, there's a lot of really good apps for guided meditations and things like that as well. So Going on to the next slide, then some people have no trouble getting to sleep, which definitely are the questions that you're asking in consultation. Do you go off to sleep really well? And they might say, yes, I have no problem, but then I'll wake up 4 hours later and then I'm wide awake and I can't get back to sleep again until maybe about, 2 or 3 hours after that, which is say maybe 6 o'clock. They'll sleep from 6 till 7 and then they can't get up. So their melatonin and their cortisol is all out of whack. Definitely some of the things that we need to look at as a herbalist and as a naturopath is to look at their stimulation level with the melatonin and the cortisol and work out, hopefully we can balance those hormones, because if people say, I'm waking up after 4 hours, that's generally that there's too much cortisol in their system and not enough melatonin. And then, of course, that can end up leading to adrenal exhaustion and to insulin resistance, which, again, a whole other webinars that we could just go off on a tangent on all this all the time. So, yeah, the mind chatter is a big thing, but that's where your guided meditations and your really restful music on your apps on your phone can actually be very beneficial for you. If you've had any medication changes that your GP or your specialist has got you on and you can't sleep after the changes, definitely let them know, because that's a real side effect of medications. Can be that you just suddenly can't sleep as well. Okay, so going on, it's really important to listen very carefully to your patient when they're answering these questions, because what you want to do is you want to prioritize your treatment protocol. There are so many lifestyle factors that your patient can actually help themselves with. And whenever I see a patient, I've got a recommendation sheet that I'm writing down recommendations for them. And you'll say, oh, I might write on them, okay, try and go to bed half an hour earlier. Try to make sure that you're not eating anything past 8 p.m. at night. Don't have too much water before bed. That's another issue that you need to look at, because is their bladder waking them up and so they need to go to the toilet, or are they just waking up and then going to the toilet as a matter of habit? So, yeah, just listening really carefully, asking the questions, listening carefully, taking really good notes, and then remind your patient that they need to listen to themselves as well. So if they're getting really tired between 9 and 10 at night, it's a really good idea to honour the body and go to bed then, because you'll probably find that they'll wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then they'll have, energy, and they'll be able to do things at that hour of the morning instead of just, lazing around in front of the TV or on their phone until midnight and then going to sleep. So they might find themselves really quite productive if they can do that. Okay, so herbal medicines. There are so many herbal medicines that can be very beneficial for fatigue. And it's not just particular classes. It's like every class of herbs can be beneficial in one way or another. And that's a reminder, if you're studying with Switch on Health and you're reading what I've been writing for the herbal medicine courses, I'm always saying that how difficult it is to actually box the herbs into one category. So we teach them that way because we have to teach them some way, but don't just stick the herbs in that category and then not look at them outside, because herbs have a primary action and most of them have secondary actions as well. So while they'll work, say, on the nervous system, they might also be a digestive as well. So just don't forget that they've got primary and secondary actions, and therefore primary and secondary uses. So you also get, the reason why I've written about organ-specific herbs can be helpful with fatigue is because it depends what's going on for a particular person. So I've written hawthorn down. Hawthorn looks after the heart. It helps to bring down the blood pressure. So if you're looking after the heart and improving circulation to the heart and helping bring the blood pressure down to a normal blood pressure, you're going to find that you're more energetic. Same thing with celery. Celery I use very much as a nutritive because there's lots of minerals in it, and it's really good for the kidneys. So if you're going to help the kidneys work better, and you're going to get rid of the toxins much better, then you're going to have more energy. And the same thing with St. Mary's thistle, because that's going to work through the liver. So if the liver is working better and clearing toxins out of the body, you're going to feel more energetic. So this comes back to listening really carefully to your patient. Now, one of the first things that we love as herbalists are adaptogens. Now, adaptogens are a really special class of herbs. The orthodox medical system does not have any pharmaceutical drugs that are like adaptogens. And there's that great quote from Kerry Bone that I've included in there. It's all about promoting our normal physiologic function and helping the body to come back to homeostasis. Okay, that's what adaptogens are. But then adaptogens are also really a bit like what natural health practitioners do. We help to bring the body back to balance. Okay, so it's all about giving the body what it needs, and the body can actually heal itself. So if somebody's lacking in nutrients, if their body's understimulated or it's overstimulated, or if it's too inflamed, the idea is we want to give them herbs that are going to help the body balance itself out, bring it back to homeostasis, and then the body can actually heal itself. But it's also really important that we make sure that we empower the patient and that they're aware of the things that they can do for themselves to help bring their body back into homeostasis. So little baby steps along the way, like I said about going to bed half an hour earlier, maybe only having 2 cups of coffee a day instead of 3 or 4, maybe having, and this is a big one, is having 2 or 3 alcohol-free nights a week, not drinking alcohol every single night of the week, so they can give their body a chance to rest. These are little steps, little recommendations that combined, you're empowering your patient to take responsibility for their own health, and it can help with their fatigue levels. And if you can help them feel more energetic and get a really good positive reaction, they'll keep coming back to you until they're starting to feel really good, and they will take their herbs and they will follow your advice, because sometimes taking the herbs can be a big struggle, not because of taste, but just because they won't follow your advice and we're actually really deep down wanting to feel better. So there's a few more things on adaptogens that I've mentioned. I won't go through all of that because this will be available to you afterwards as well. But it's just adaptogens are really important for people that suffer chronic stress due to all sorts of different factors. They just help the body to balance itself. They're a fantastic class of herbs, and there are so many. I've written a few down, and I've probably got, I would say the majority of herbs in my pharmacy would be adaptogens, and that's because we need them. I don't use them all at once. That would be way too many, and I probably might only end up using 3 adaptogens within the 1 herbal mix, but it depends on what they're going through as to which herb that I'm going to use. As an example, skullcap is a fabulous adaptogen. It's also really good for headaches. So if somebody's finding that their fatigue is giving them lots of headaches, then I'm going to recommend skullcap because it's going to help with the adrenal glands. It's going to help support the nervous system, give them a bit more energy through balancing their adrenals, but it's also going to help with their headaches. Gotcha Cola is another one that I will use a lot. It's really good for cognition enhancing. So, and it's good for skin healing. So if they're finding that they've got a low immune system and their skin isn't healing really well, they're really tired, the Gotcha Cola is going to work on the brain, the skin, and the fatigue. So this is where knowing your herbs really well is very beneficial, because you're going to be using them for both their primary and their secondary impacts. You've got your withanias there, your ginsengs. Withania, another name for it, is your Indian ginseng, your Siberian ginseng and your Korean ginseng. Really important to differentiate between those herbs is to know when you're going to use, one herb over the other. Astragalus is another fabulous adaptogen that's really good for the immune system. So again, you're going to know your herbs and know when to use one herb over the other. And then going on to nervines, because nervines are really good for fatigue, because if you can look after somebody's nervous system, and you're either going to, we've got it listed in 3 categories here, trophorestoratives, so nurturing and restoring balance to the nervous system, relaxing and or stimulating nervines, which might sound a bit counterintuitive, but I'll go through that in just a minute. So your trophorestoratives are things like oats. Now, oats in particular is really high in minerals. So while you're nourishing the body and you're also supporting the small and large intestine with oats, you're also nourishing the nervous system. It's the same thing with St. John's wort. You're looking after and supporting the nervous system. So all of those herbs that I've got listed there, they're nervous system support, and they're going to help to restore the strength to the nervous system. So now some of the other relaxing nervines, there's a big long list of those, because some of these fall into other categories of soporific as well, which basically soporific, and I've got another list coming up in another slide, are herbs that can help you to get to sleep. So chamomile is fabulous. It's one of my favorites because chamomile works on the vagus nerve. And chamomile is a really good nervine to support the nervous system, but for someone that feels sick in their stomach when they get really upset. So they'll feel like vomiting or they'll feel really nauseous. And to me, there's your indicators for using chamomile. Passion flower is great for people that suffer anxiety and some heart palpitations. So when they get really stressed out, they find that their heart's beating really quickly, and they'll get palpitations, and that's when you use passion flower. So all of your herbs, actually not even just all your nervines, have got all your different reasons for using them, and it just depends on which ones that you, I guess, create an affinity with, and the herbs that you feel that respond best for your patients as well. So stimulating nervines, they help to keep the mind alert, but they calm the nerves so you can think straight. So if you think about it, when you get really nervous and you're getting very anxious, and this can then in turn, obviously, we bring that back to fatigue. If you're anxious all the time and your nerves are on all the time, switched on, it's tiring. And that can lead to adrenal exhaustion, but it can just lead to just basic fatigue because you're so tired that you've been so uptight all day. All you want to do is go home and go to bed, or you want to have a bit of a nap. And so the fatigue kicks in, and then once you've sat down, you know, sometimes for some people it's really hard to get up and keep going. But the idea of stimulating nervines, and when we get very anxious, our brain gets foggy and cloudy and we can't often think straight. So there's just a few herbs that I've written down there that can really help bring clarity to the mind, but relax the nervous system so you can be productive and get things done, do what you need to do, and get over the fatigue. So just some more herbs that are really beneficial for fatigue. Your soporifics, as I mentioned, they can help you get to sleep. If somebody tells me that they're not sleeping well, that they can lay in bed for an hour before they actually drop off to sleep. Or again, like I mentioned, that they'll fall asleep really easily, but then they wake up 3 or 4 hours later, I'll give them a sleep mix. And the sleep mix often has things in it like, excuse me, passion flower and chamomile, and then I'll put some Bach flowers in the mix as well. So you're giving them some herbs to settle them down physically, and then I use Bach flowers to settle them down on an emotional level as well. A couple of the other herbs towards the bottom of that soporific list is California poppy and corydalis. Now those 2 herbs are specific for helping people to get to sleep, but they're also really good analgesics. So if somebody's in pain and it's the pain stopping them from getting to sleep, that's when I'll use those herbs. So I'm going to go into chronic pain and fatigue as well in just a moment. And digestives, of course, that can help with making sure that you're digesting your food really well. If we're not digesting our food really well, and we're not getting the nutrients out of the food that we're eating, then obviously that's going to lead to fatigue as well. So there's just a few herbs that can actually help with digestion. And I've got a little bit written about nutrition further down as well. So circulatory stimulants, again, if you're stimulating the blood flow, you're stimulating oxygen to the brain or to the whole body, and therefore then you're going to find that all your organs are going to be fed better with all the nutrients going around the blood, and then the hormones are going to be more in balance. If we're stimulating the circulation, everything's moving quicker, and so you're getting the nutrients in and the toxins out, and that should definitely have an impact on energy levels. Musculoskeletal support, and again, I've got Corydallis and California poppy there if people are in pain, and that's what's affecting their fatigue levels. But also if you've just got general aches and pains, even if it's not chronic pain that's stopping you from sleeping, you've got oats and horsetail there that are really high in minerals that can help with energizing and with building the body with nutrients and things as well. So coming into pain, pain, both acute and chronic, can be really big contributors to somebody's fatigue. It really takes over their life. They have no quality of life because they're always in pain. They have to modify their lifestyle. Now, it's really good to try to work into the root cause of the issue. You know, is what came first, the pain or the fatigue? Is the pain making you really tired, or is the fatigue sort of making you more aware of your pain? It's trying to, again, differentiate what's going on for your patient that's sitting in front of you. But when someone's in chronic pain, everything just gets too hard, and then it's easy to fall into depression, and then there's a lot of fatigue that comes along with depression as well. Getting to the root cause of the problem is always a big thing for natural health practitioners. So you really want to look at, though, the presenting problem, which is the pain or the fatigue or both, and then you're trying to get to the root cause of the problem as well. So take for an example, just to further explain this, if someone's got rheumatoid arthritis or even just a polyarthritis, so they've got a bit of arthritis in the fingers, in the knees, in the toes, whatever it is, what you want to do is you want to support the joint where the pain is coming from. That's where I would use something like horsetail because it's an anti-inflammatory. Licorice is an anti-inflammatory as well. Licorice is going to support the adrenal glands too. You want to give them something for the pain. So something like Jamaica dog is a really good herb to help with pain. And then you also want to give them something that's going to increase their energy levels. So you can be giving them Siberian ginseng. So there already you've got 3 or 4 herbs that I've mentioned, which could just be your main mix, you know, or your initial mix to help somebody get through the pain. You're supporting the joint, you're looking after the inflammation, trying to bring that down. You're looking after the pain, and you're looking after supporting their energy levels. Okay, so just a few words on nutrition. I love this saying, let food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. It's so important to eat really well. That should be the first thing. And in an ideal world, we would just have really good nutrition, really good food to eat, and we wouldn't need anything else. But that's in Deanne's idealistic world somewhere. Which unfortunately, to the lifestyles that we're living now, because we're so stressed, and even just at the moment, excuse me, in the middle of COVID, that creates a whole lot of stress in itself. So we really need to have our extra supports, but we start with food. You know, it's really important to make sure that you're going right through somebody's food with them in a consultation. So as I mentioned, food absorption or malabsorption is going to impact your energy levels. You can have somebody that eats really well, and if I'm sitting across the table taking notes and they're telling me that, you know, they've got a fantastic diet, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, what they're eating is actually better than what I eat, but they're still really tired, then you've got to look at what's happening in the gut. They may not be absorbing the food really well, so they've actually got malabsorption, so they're not getting the nutrients into the small intestine, then going out into the blood supply, and then going out to the organs and nourishing their body. 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. So it's really important then we have that link back to depression and gut bacteria. And again, that's a whole other webinar as well. And then what I find really distressing are these stats from just last year from the World Health Organization, that there's more deaths in the Western world from overweight and obesity than there is from underweight. So we are eating too much and we are eating the wrong foods. So we really need to look at our patient's diet. Asking all your differential questions, really important. And one of the big things is making sure that what are they eating and when, you know, are they feeling really tired after they've eaten a huge plate of pasta? Well, there's your carbs. They could be reacting to the carbs themselves. They could be reacting to the wheat. And you've got to try and take out the foods and work out, okay, take that food out of your diet for 5 days and then introduce it back in and then see what's going on. So a food diary is really important. I use food diaries a lot because it helps you and the patient to gather lots of really good information about how they feel, about how their bowels are working, and linking that together with what they're eating. So just another thing about with food and fatigue, if they're having a really heavy meal late at night, like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, that's going to really make them quite tired because their body is trying to then process all this food. Your digestive system can keep you awake while it's trying to process it. They may be in bed sleeping, but it may not be a very restful sleep. What we want to do is we actually want to wake up hungry. So then you're going along all these other questions. So are you hungry when you wake up in the morning? Are you nauseous when you wake up in the morning? Because all these things can link back to the liver or to the kidney not being able to get rid of the toxins, which is then going to link it back to fatigue. If you're finding that they're not absorbing their food properly, if they're not eliminating the waste properly, that can definitely lead to fatigue. And the other thing to think about is a lot of elderly will often suffer from malnutrition because they're too tired. They're feeling they just can't be bothered to make themselves anything decent. So I call them the tea and toast people. And they'll just have a cup of tea and toast for dinner, and a cup of tea and toast for breakfast, and a cup of tea and toast for lunch. And that's all that they're having. So there's hardly any nutrients in that. So if you can help them make things easier, and in that instance, even just frozen meals are going to give them a few more nutrients than something like tea and toast. And looking at people's cravings, if they're actually craving foods, that can give you some really good clues into how their digestive system is working and whether some of their fatigue is coming from the food that they're eating or not eating. Yeah, so I've pretty much covered that. So then we've got Bach flowers. I use Bach flowers to help with the emotional side of fatigue because there can be all sorts of reasons why people can't sleep or why people are depressed. And I've listed a few of them there. Bach flowers are Bach flower essences or Bach flower remedies. Fabulous. And I use them in every single mix that I'm giving to a patient because there's always going to be some emotional issues that you need to work through because you want to get this holistic healing picture for someone. And if they can't sleep, if they're grinding their teeth at night, if they can't switch their mind off, there's some really good Bach flowers that can help with balancing all that out. So just as I wrap up really quickly, because I'm conscious of time and I want to take any questions or any conversation, definitely see a qualified natural health practitioner. Make sure it's somebody that is properly qualified. I can't stress that enough. They'll be able to monitor your condition and they will give you an individualised treatment protocol. That's the big benefit. It's not just a treatment protocol that is, you know, one thing fixes everybody, because it just doesn't. Everybody is different. And then just going over on that, if it's natural, it's safe. One of my big things that I sort of harp on about within the course. Just because it's natural does not mean it's safe. There's a lot of different things that you need to look at. I use water as a great example. You can drink too much water in one day and it can actually be fatal if you're having, you know, 4 litres of water, 5 litres of water, because then your electrolytes are all out of whack. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you're not overdoing your mineral ratios, because there's a lot of that to look at too. So this is how you want to end up feeling vital and energetic and facing the day with this amazing vitality and lots of energy. Okay, all right, so I'll stop sharing screen now, Martin, and bring back to you. Okay, that sort of got a lot of information down fairly quickly, which could have overwhelmed a lot of people, but there's so much to cover when it comes to fatigue.
Yeah, there sure is. That was an excellent presentation, Deanne. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, yeah, you're on fire tonight. Yeah, I really thought that, that was like a tip of the iceberg presentation. You know, I think what you've shown people is basically the tip of the iceberg, and you know there are so many topics that you've just really just touched on in that presentation, and we could take just one of any number of those topics and we could talk about it for hours.
Yep.
Actually, we do in some of our subjects. If you do want to learn more, you know, enroll in one of our courses, because there's a lot of stuff in that Deanne has really just touched on that we do cover in a lot more detail. Yeah, fantastic presentation. You know, I thought, you know, at the moment we've got, you know, I think of it as being like a silent epidemic of fatigue. You know, we've got so many people that, you know, as you said, it's a very, very common complaint. A lot of people feel really low on energy. And as you said, you know, you could go to the doctor, you could get your blood tests, you could rule out the obvious culprits. You know, is your thyroid functioning okay? Do you have iron deficiency anemia? And everything could come back normal from a Western medicine point of view. But if the person's still feeling really tired, well, obviously something's not right. And as you said, you know, this is where complementary medicine practitioners really excel. You know, it's something that we've got so many tools in our arsenal to be able to treat. And yep, as you said, if you are feeling tired, book in, see a naturopath, see a herbalist, see a homeopath, see a complementary medicine practitioner. Good advice. It also occurred to me that, you know, as you were saying, you get a lot of your clients to keep a food diary. I was actually thinking it'd be a really good idea before you actually go and see your practitioner, keep a fatigue diary or a tired diary, and you might be surprised. You know, you might start to see patterns. You know, am I tired at a particular time of day? Is it after eating? Is it after eating a particular food? And that could give us some really valuable clues.
Yeah, I actually, in the food diary, I probably shouldn't call it a food diary, because it's got, I want to know about their bowel habits, their moods, their food, and yeah, their energy levels. So it's the 4 things that we cover. It's like 2-sided, and I ask them to fill it out for 2 weeks if they can. And yeah, it's really valuable information for the practitioner and for them as well, because they go, oh yeah, look, I ate this yesterday and I was super tired today, or I had a really bad headache. And then this is what I ate the next day and I felt fabulous. So yeah, trying to sort of determine what what suits us, and everybody is different. That's a really important thing. There are so many different eating plans out there, and everybody reacts differently to different things. So it's really important to sort of work in with your patient and to just go, okay, well, what works for you? And it may not necessarily be your own beliefs or what works for you, but you've got to work out what is working best for your patient.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions. I'll stop recording so we can let our live participants ask questions. So if you are watching live, please do stick around. We'll be able to chat a bit further. And if you are watching this on YouTube, as I said, stick any questions you've got in the comments below. We'll be happy to answer them. And if you'd like to learn more, check out our courses at Switch On Health. Learn more with Switch On Health.